In from the side, it's me. Okay, cool. Hello there, my name is Jonathan, and this is Jonathan's Days, and this is episode 30 of this knitting podcast, which has officially been going for 3 years. It's funny how it has kind of ended up working out like that, 30 episodes in 3 years. There's more than 30 in total, yearly wrap-ups and things like this, but I'm so proud of this community and this kind of ongoing fun time that I've had here on YouTube. So thank you so much for everyone who has been here since the beginning, those who've jumped on a little bit along the way, and those of you who are brand new. This is a little just show, video, podcast where I share about all the things that I've been working on when it comes mainly to knitting. I do have some other crafts in there every now and again, but mainly it's knitting. And I'm just like really happy and proud of getting this far. And yeah, it's a very exciting episode because it's the 30th episode, which is cool. And also this episode, every single thing I'm going to show you has been designed by me. And that's what makes it really, really special. So that's quite cool. Thank you to all of you who've been watching recently. We had an episode a week. We kind of like came in hard and fast with episodes. So thank you for all of those who watched those episodes. I don't know if it was too much to have an episode every single week or if it was quite fun and exciting. But now we should be back on like scheduled programming about once every 3 weeks that I'll have a new episode. So let's dive in. You can see we've got the famous Jonathan knitting needle microphone because there's a lot of neckwear this episode. So let's jump into that first. First thing I'm going to talk about is what I'm wearing. This is it won't be my second released design, as we'll speak about in a bit, but it is my second completed design, more or less. And this is the Bosca Cowl. This is the bigger brother or the sibling to the Bosca hat, which was my first pattern that I ever released. And I have literally finished it probably about an hour ago. I did the seam of the back of the cowl, and let me tell you, it's not exactly cold here today. It's pretty warm. You can see I'm in my t-shirt, but this is extremely warm, and I can tell it's going to be very warm as we go into the colder months, but they're a bit away, which also leads me to say that this pattern won't be released until the other side of summer is my plan, but we can take a look at it. I'm going to step forward and you can take a look at it. So, here it is. So this one, it's colorwork, all over colorwork, and it is a change from the hat. So the hat had colorwork in the folded brim, and this is a different colorwork stitch pattern. So it's slightly different. It is a bit more interesting, not more interesting, it's a bit more complicated, I suppose. And it just kind of means it's kind of like an evolution of the hat stitch pattern. And I'm really, really happy with it. I am planning to make 2 versions of it. So this is kind of like they'll use the same amount of yarn, but this is kind of the taller, wider version. And then the other version will be thinner and longer. So it will kind of, if you don't wrap it twice, it will come down further on your chest and will let you kind of maybe double wrap it or kind of tuck it in a bit more. And this one is different because I did it taller and I also put a twist in it. So I'm going to actually put my microphone on my t-shirt and then take it off so I can actually show you. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I've taken it off so that I can give you a better look. So here's what it looks like with the twist in it. And you can see it's like a like full cowl. Let me move the twist around so I can give you like a nice look at the colorwork stitch pattern. If I flip it over, I feel like I'm a magician. So yeah, here you go. This is the new kind of Bosca colorwork pattern. You can see it's kind of still got those little boxes that made up the initial one, but it's got a bit more interest. So it creates like these larger boxes encasing the little ones. So it's kind of like stripes, but more interesting, I would say. Yeah, so I'm really, really happy with it and how it's turned out. Again, this is like quite tall if you were to put it over your neck, which is why I put the twist in this version so that when you do sit it on the back of your neck, the height comes up on the back of your neck, and then at the front it's got the twist, so then it sits under your chin. So that was the initially I was going to put the twist in the thinner version, but I actually really, really like it in this one. So I'm quite happy with how this has turned out. I'm actually really thrilled. I'm really, really thrilled with how this has turned out. I was very excited to get it finished, and you can kind of move the twist around to where it is. Now, I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to be honest with you. I have to come up with a different way of seaming it up. So you can see at the back it's seamed up here. I had to do, so let's talk about the yarn actually first before I get into that, because it will feed into each other very well. Let me reach into the box, into my bag to pull out the yarn bands. So the color changing yarn is one of my favorites. It is Spincycle Dream State. This is the same color changing yarn that I used in the Bosca hat. So it's the same one. And this is in the colorway Ghost Ranch. So you can see that. And then the light gray is in the Walcot Yarns Le Garcon Fluff yarn. And this is in the color Cold Rain. So you can get a good look at the colors there. So the nice gray as the kind of background, and then the colorwork pattern is in the Spincycle Dream State. I am super happy with it. It's so warm because obviously it's colorwork. It's a like a tube cowl, so you've got like, again, 4 layers of warmth around you. Like, it's heating up my hands so much right now. You won't even believe, like, it is so warm and fluffy. It's been blocked, so it's already, like, this is how it should lay, which is quite nice. And it is all over colorwork. So yeah, it's just, I'm really, really happy with it. I hope you like it. I hope you like how it's looking. We will see more of it in the not too distant future. But so when it comes to seaming, so you knit a very long tube. If you've seen the previous episode, you knit a very long tube and then you bring the 2 ends together. In this case, I've given it a twist, and then you seam the 2 ends together. Now, initially I was going to seam the 2 ends together with Kitchener stitch. So you do a provisional cast on to begin, and then you knit the whole way, and then you take out the provisional cast on at the end, and then you've got 2 sets of live stitches on either end of your cowl. You bring those ends together, and my preference would be to Kitchener those together. However, using the fluffy yarn, which I've got it right here, if it will focus on that versus my face. There you go. You can see Fluff by name, Fluff by nature. It is a wonderful fluffy yarn. And the problem with this, if you were doing like a sewn bind off or a sewn grafting stitch, is that this pulling through of the stitches multiple times with a really fluffy yarn will kind of build up, it will catch, it will felt essentially, because you're doing all this like friction as you do the grafting. So I chose to do the 3 needle bind off on this for the grafting, which I'm gonna have to rethink. It's at the back of the cowl, so it's kind of sitting here and the back here, and like from a distance, it's not too bad. So, you know, it doesn't bother me that much if I was the only person wearing this and this was just something I was going to have for myself. But because this is something I want to release as a pattern, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, just like flub the graft, like whatever, it's at the back. Like that's not a way of working or a way of, you know, designing for people. Like, you want to do your best to kind of give them the best experience. So if I wasn't using a fluffy yarn, and I would say this in the pattern, if I was using just a regular yarn, I would Kitchener the 2 ends together. That would be the best way to do it. But because it's a fluffy yarn, I said, let me do the 3 needle bind off, which is what I did. Now, the problem with the way I started the 3 needle bind off, so the 3 needle bind off has kind of like a right side and the wrong side. So you can do it one way and it kind of gives you like a bump, like a kind of a seam, which you probably could see here because I've had to do it. So this is the seam if you do it one way, and then this is the seam, which you probably can't even see. It goes along here. If you do it basically right sides together versus wrong sides together. And so I was doing the 3 needle bind off right sides together. So I was kind of working from the inside of the cowl. But eventually, if you understand sewing, you know, bagging out, any of those kind of techniques, eventually you'll get stuck because you're working from inside the cowl, and you just can't do that the whole way around. If you know, you know. If you don't worry about it too much, because it's not what I'm going to put in the final pattern. So I'm kind of left with the dilemma now. Do I do the 3-needle bind off and have a seam that's there? Or do I try the Kitchener stitch? Or do I use another technique that I have yet to think about? I have used another technique in the Snowfield Cowl by Max, the knitter. He used like a Russian crochet join at the end, I believe, to join the ends together, which is quite nice. Well, maybe I'll try that. The other alternative is not using the Fluff yarn to do the 3-needle bind off or the Kitchener stitch, and use the contrast color yarn, which is the Spincycle. That would mean for my other sample, flipping the flipping the color work. So whatever's the main color becomes the contrast color. So yes, all that to say, designing is not easy. You have to think a lot. You have to do a lot. It's not, simple and easy. So I'm going to think on this quite a while before I do any more. The other thing is, obviously, you have to knit the whole cowl before you actually do the seaming together. So maybe I might do a small swatch of it to test that. For some reason, I didn't think about the inside-outsideness of the 3-needle bind off. But hey, we live and we learn. So yes, that is everything that I have to say about the Bosca cowl. I do love it. It's so great. I'm really, really happy with it. I love these colors together. I love how magical the Mobius like twist creates a really cool, like, knitting is magic, guys. It really, really is. So yes, I'm super happy with this. Let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you like the finished product? Yeah, I'm just really, really happy with it. I think it's going to be really warm and really nice on the cold weather. I'm going to wear it a ton. It's definitely like a wear outside kind of with your coat in the cold weather. I don't know if I'll be wearing it inside too much, but anyway, I digress. I love it. I'm really happy with it. I hope you're happy with it, like it too, and you would consider knitting it. So let's talk about test knits and stuff like this and timing for this. I have 2 whips currently, and I'm going to show them to you in a second. One of them is, well, they're both designs. Well, one of them we'll see. But one of them is the utility shawl, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And that one will be the first one to come out. I think that's the kind of one I'm going to go for coming up next. And so after that, then I'll do the cowl for this. So it gives me time to finish the utility shawl how I'd like to, and then I can pick up the second version of this and start working on that. But for all intents and purposes, like the main pattern, I've got all the notes written out. I just need to do a second sample where I have a different grafting technique just to get that down pat before I send it out to anyone or any other test knitters. So if you if you like this, do let me know. I am very much looking forward to wearing it in the colder months. So yes, Bosca cowl, I hope you like it. I'm really happy with it. And yeah, let's move on to the next design and more whips. Okay, moving on to works in progress. And the first one is, well, it's what I'm wearing. This is my utility shawl. This is the pattern I debuted in the previous episode. And this is how I've been wearing it mainly. It's got my little, oh, let me turn. Can you see the point at the back? Can you? Yeah. I've been wearing this a ton. I've been getting lots of compliments on it. Thank you to all of you who expressed interest in it in the previous episode. I'm like really happy people think it's quite cool. And I hope you'll all want to make it. And so I have been hard at work at my second sample of this. And the plan is to release the test knit next episode. So in about 3 weeks time, the next episode will come out, episode 31, and we'll have a test knit call for the utility shawl. The test knit will be about 6 weeks, I estimate, thereabouts. So what are we in now? May, June. So probably we're looking at like July release date for this pattern. Yes, that's probably where we're looking for that. And I will tell you why we have that timing. So I finished this. This is the first sample, which was knit. It's going to be up on the screen what it was made out of. But for the actual pattern yarn that's recommended in the pattern, I wanted to have something that was more readily available for people. And that's what this is. So this is my second sample. This is going to be the large. So this is the like small size, and this is the larger size. There is this will use twice as much yarn. So it's going to be 200 gram skeins of yarn for like the main yarn, and it will be much bigger. So this already is probably about the length of, well, halfway of the length of this one. If I kind of held it up, you can see it's pretty long. It has a different rate of increase, so it will be slightly different shape. I didn't want it to be a super, super long scarf. I do want it to be a shawl with a bit more depth into the point of the triangle. And so this is the second sample that I'm working on, which has been super, super fun to knit up. The two yarns are, this is Telling Yarns, and this is the color Joe. I hope I have the band, because I need to remember. This is the Resolute base. So this is Telling Yarns Resolute in the color Joe from, I want to say, the Anne of Green Gables collection, I think. So this is held together with this, which is the Ito Sensai yarn. This is in the colorway, is it Cloud? What's the name of this colorway? Glacier. So this is, let me not show you the barcode. This is that. And then this put together. And they're held together to make this beautiful fabric. It's so soft, and I was knitting it in the sun and it was so sparkly, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but I did make a trip down to Cornwall, and I was knitting in the sun, and like this was just like glistening in the sun. I haven't put too much work into it because I wanted to finish the Bosca cowl, and then my next project as well kind of took me a bit away, but I am more or less fully focused on this right now to get this completed. Well, I want to get past the center point at least. I have the kind of measurements and everything written up for this size, the smaller size, and then for the larger size, I need to get past the kind of center point where I go from increasing, as you do in this version, from here to decreasing, and then I'll be able to kind of do the maths from there and be able to write up the pattern and then release it to testers. So I'll know where I'm headed with this without having to complete it, the larger size, more or less. We'll predict, and then we'll be able to kind of test with confidence. Thank you so much for the response to this. People are already like, I've been talking to people who've had ideas already with like how you can get creative with this pattern, and I already love it. People are talking about embroidery, color work, striping, all these kinds of things, all these ideas so far about this kind of shaped shawl that you can create, which I absolutely love. I'm super excited and very excited to get the pattern ready and out to everyone as soon as I can. The other thing that I'm thinking about, and let me know what you think about this, is I'm thinking of having within the pattern this might be more work for me, but two separate kind of versions. So there will be the pattern, which will be like, if you get gauge and you have the same amount of yarn, this is how long you have to knit, or this is how many decreases you have to do, so on and so forth, to get, this exact thing. So it would be the pattern. And then I'm also thinking of doing a second section, which would be like the recipe. So if you're like, okay, if you have 3 50-gram skeins of fingering weight yarn, this is how you will divide those 2 skeins. This is how much you will cast on. This is how much you will increase. This is how much you will decrease. Because my intention, which I spoke about in the previous episode, was like, how do you use up those special skeins, show off, the yarn, the color, whatever, in a really nice way by like using it up as much as you can and not being wasteful with your yarn. So tell me what you think about that. So there would be like, it would all be one document, one price, whatever, but first half would be the pattern, which you can follow exactly, and the second half would be the recipe. So it would be more like, how do you kind of split up your skein or skeins and using your gauge to create essentially a little shawlette or a larger shawl, depending, to use up all your yarn. Tell me what you think about that. That's how I'm thinking of going. I think I can do it. I've got the ratios for the smaller size down pretty well. Because this is a different rate of increasing and decreasing, I have to figure it out for this one too. But once I have both figured out, I don't know if I would go so far as to say it would be like a gaugeless pattern. Like if you have like 5 skeins of, chunky weight yarn, this is what you do, because I do still want it to end up being a wearable piece. Like you do want it to be able to still come across your neck and cross so that you can wear it both ways. So yeah, we'll see. I have a bit of thinking to do on that, but I do think it's something that could be both a pattern and a recipe, and just let, if you simply like following a pattern to the letter and want to come out with a finished object with a, predictable confidence, the pattern is there. And if you are a bit more creative, have some scraps or yarns that you want to just use up, then it can be like, okay, this is how you split your yarn. This is how you knit until you finish your first batch of yarns, and then you decrease with the second batch of yarns, is what I'm thinking. Let me know what you think, if you would like that. If you prefer one and then not the other, then you're like, do it, Jonathan, because I'll have both in the pattern. So I guess that's probably, I guess my question is, would you find that useful? Is my question to you. All that to say, we are cracking on with this. Testnet will be coming at the next episode for the utility shawl. I'm super, super happy with it. This will be the recommended yarn that I'll be using. I am going to do one more sample of the smaller size with a single skein of the Telling Yarns Resolute, and I'm also thinking of not holding the mohair with it and seeing how I get on with that, and if it would be, it'll definitely be drapier, but yeah, looking forward to giving that a go as well. So I have 2 samples of the 2 sizes in the same yarn, essentially. So that's the plan with the utility shawl. I've got a lot. This is going to be pretty big and long, and it's got a pretty decent clip of rate of increase. So I think it's going to be quite wide. It will be like kind of a bigger shawl, even though it's only going to be 2 skeins of the mane. And I predict, at least 3. I have 4 just in case of the mohair, but we'll see how we get on with that. But yes, that's the utility shawl. I hope you like it. I hope you're excited about it. It's a fun knit. It's also to note, it uses magic loop for the smaller size. And then for the larger size, I've actually started magic loop, and then it kind of got so big that I've switched to, this is a 60 centimeter circular needle. So it kind of looks like a funny cap. But yeah, it's just like knitting literally in the round now, because it gets so wide at a certain point. You'd need an extremely long magic loop to keep doing magic loop, or extremely long circular needle to keep doing magic loop. So you do end up, for the sake of ease, switching to circular needles. So yeah, that's pretty handy, and it makes it go a bit faster because you're not doing the magic loop thing where you have to keep pulling it through. I know some people are quite quick at it, but I'm not. And yeah, so it's kind of going along at a decent clip. I feel like I'll go much faster now that I'm working on the just regular circulars. But yeah, really, really enjoying it. And yeah, pattern will be written up as soon as I turn the corner, turn the point on this, we'll know where we are, and I'll be able to write up the pattern and work on the next sample of this. So yes, so that's my utility shawl. Again, thank you so much for the positive comments. People seem interested in it, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, bear with me a couple more weeks. We'll get a test knit going and get it out and in your hands, midsummer, which would be great. And yeah, so that is the utility shawl. And then I have one more whip to share with you, and we will be done. So my final whip is again, well, I would say a design by me. We'll see if it becomes a design. We'll see if you like it, if you want it to be a design. It is, I would call it at this point, a self-drafted sweater. I spoke about how I want to, I've knit dozens and dozens of sweaters now. I wanted to work on my theory behind the construction of different sweaters when it comes to knitting, especially if I wanted to go into more designing of sweaters. So I wanted to read a lot, learn as much as I can. And part of that process was looking at the different styles of sweater that you can knit, essentially constructions. So I have this book here, which is Amy Herzog's Ultimate Sweater Book, The Essential Guide for Adventurous Knitters. This was knitted or recommended to me by Sophie, the Knit Pearl girl. She recommended this book and I have been flipping through it. It's interesting. It's obviously, it's not a book designed for designers. It's just designed for a regular knitter to kind of self-draft essentially your own sweaters, but you don't actually need to self-draft at all from this book, because the author literally takes every single sweater construction you can think of and gives you numbers and measurements for at least three different, let me see, fingering, sport, worsted, yeah, at least 3 different weights of yarn. So you can essentially measure your body or choose what measurement of a finished garment you would want, take whichever weight of yarn you have, do your gauge swatch and like plug it in, and it will kind of give you the pattern for that. But for me, it was interesting because it does go into like different construction techniques and ways of doing things. What I will say is, I mean, I haven't read it cover to cover. I was focused mainly on raglan construction. But from what I can tell, almost all of the constructions here are knit flat and seamed. So that's something to be aware of. If knitting flat is not something you are interested in, it's not something you enjoy, I just want you to be aware of that when it comes to using this book. I really like a seamless construction for, ease of use or ease of knitting. It's quite fun. I'm not against seaming necessarily, but for my lifestyle or my preference when it comes to knitting, I do like to knit as much as I can seamless with circular needles. So, but what this did do is give you a really good baseline knowledge of all the different construction techniques, and I definitely looked at raglans a lot. The other good thing, which I'm really, really happy about, is, I've learned to sew in the last couple of years, and it was really, really good for me going from knitting to sewing to think about patterns and the shape of fabric and panels of fabric that are flat when it comes to sewing. Obviously sewing, everything is flat and you sew it together. That's what sewing is. But it's interesting how it fed into my understanding of knitting, and especially raglans, because this book explains things in flat pieces, and obviously I can visualize it quite well now because I'm used to sewing garments and things. So I'm used to kind of thinking about how fabric works and how to combine pieces of fabric to make a 3D object, which is what garments are when it comes to knitting. So it was super useful in that regard. I think if I didn't have that experience in sewing, I would probably find this difficult to comprehend from the view of someone who's wanting to design garments. So take of that what you will. All that to say, it's all good knowledge. It's all good information to know and understand how to create, garments. And I took that as my baseline. I have all my measurements. I've got all these note cards, which I use for creating designs. And yes, so I've got most of my pattern done. I just have, what's left? I just have the rate of decreases for the sleeve that I want to do, but that's kind of one thing I need to calculate, essentially. And once I have that, then I'll be able to finish up the entire garment. But yeah, I just did my initial gauge swatch. So yeah, all that to say, this is the yarn I'm using. This is Raw Wool Company, and this is the Wensleydale, which I'm obsessed with, and it is in the DK weight in the Shepherd Silver colorway. This one, which I love, picked this up on Unravel. This is the swatch, initial swatch that I made, that I kind of took all my measurements from. This is knit on a 4mm needle. Yeah, 4mm. And then this is a teeny tiny swatch of the Raglan increases, because it was just all to like calculate numbers essentially. So I have this tiny Raglan increase swatch that I needed, but I'm keeping them all for some reason. And it's so funny, this is blocked and this isn't, and like the difference in softness is incredible. The Wensleydale is just, it's so good. Like you won't believe it until you've blocked it, how much it like fluffs up and kind of almost turns into a mohair feeling garment. So yes, so I did my calculations. I initially wanted to create just a basic, like no detail, no interest sweater, just plain stockinette. But then I thought that was a bit boring. So I just did a little bit of, now it's going to blow out a bit because it is quite dark, but I did a bit of interest. If I kind of pull it, you'll be able to see. So essentially, here's your collar, and I continued the detail of the collar down the center of the body. It is the same on the Raglans and on the, it's going to be so hard to show this. Hold on. If I do this, yeah, there you go. So it comes each Raglan seam, and then there's one going down the shoulder, and they're at the front and the back. So essentially, there's kind of these little, it's just a purl stitch, just a couple of pearls, like a little ribbed detail. It's really hard to show you. I'm gonna do my best. Yeah, this ribbed little detail. So this is the Raglan, and then this is the arm, going down the arm, another Raglan, and then at the front. So yeah, it's just like a simple, really simple design element. And what I liked is, which is what I was testing on that little swatch, is that it goes directly from the, it's really blowing out. I hope you can see, it goes directly from the collar. So the collar like goes straight, like it is a seamless kind of design element. It's super simple. For all intents and purposes, it is a plain, basic Raglan, but it's going to have those details going. It'll go like down, so you'll have, it comes for your Raglan, it will go down your arm, it'll be on the inside of your arm, it's on the inside of the body as well, under the arm, if I can show you. So yeah, it goes on the inside of the arm, and then it'll be on the top and the inside as well. So it just creates a bit of interest. We are split for the sleeves. I have a tiny bit left on the body to go, and then I will start the ribbing. I also need to do the calculations to make sure that those kind of ribs that go down the body slide straight into the ribbing and look really, really nice. And then it will just be the sleeves. This one, I want to prioritize the utility shawl. I have an idea of a name for this, but we'll see. What I want to see is if you're interested in it. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish writing it up, because the goal of this exercise was to write a Raglan pattern for myself, so I could understand the construction, understand the ratios that you need, how you need to divide everything, how it will work, because really my intention is to do an all over colorwork sweater that has Raglan details. And so doing something basic like this first was kind of the exercise I wanted to do. And if you're interested in this version, this is like essentially a nice simple DK sweater, let me know. I do plan on grading it up 2 more sizes if nobody's interested, nobody wants it, I'm just going to grade it up 2 more sizes because this is like a very fitted size on me, and I do want a slightly looser, with more positive ease version as well for myself. And I do want it with a fingering and a mohair so that it gives a more drapey fabric to see how that looks. This is very nice. Obviously I says I says to the guy, obviously I said this turns really soft and fluffy once you're finished blocking it, but it is obviously more sturdier fabric because it's DK knit on 4mm. So I would like to see how this looks in fingering and mohair held together in a slightly larger size. So if nothing else, that's where I'm planning on heading with this. And this yarn is a joy to knit with. I was knitting this down in Cornwall with Anton, who is one of the owners of Raw Wool Company, and I had a great time down there. I will pop some footage in of me wandering around Cornwall. I got to meet some of the sheep that are down there. I got to hang out with the lovely Moose, who's Anton's dog, and just have a great time spending time in Cornwall, having Cornish pasties, all those kind of nice fun things. It was a really, really good time. And it was the person I was teasing to have on the podcast, but we didn't make it happen this time. But hopefully the next time I'm down, we'll get him on the podcast and get him to share about his whips and what he's working on with his wonderful company. I also got to visit Stitches and Cream in Falmouth, and that was a lovely store. Had a great time there. It's really, really pretty and like huge. I'm so used to like London yarn shops that are really small because obviously we're all like squished in here, and then you go to the country and they have these like lovely big yarn shops where there's like a big table and you could sit and knit, and there's probably classes and all those kinds of things. So it was really, really fun to go down there and visit that. And I just had like a wonderful chill knitting time, and it made me realize how fun and nice it is to knit with others and knit in community with other people. And it was one of my soft goals of this year is to do more like with the community when it comes to knitting. So hopefully I'll be able to do more of that. We are coming up to halfway through the year, and my hope is that within the second half of the year, we can definitely have more like community knitting fun things coming down the line. So that is my hope and that is my plan. Stay tuned. Maybe there'll be something that I can share with you on that. But for now, that's all the knitting. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I am going to be back quite soon. 3 weeks is the plan. I also was thinking of maybe at the end of the episodes, should I do a Q&A if you guys have a question you want to ask me, and then I answer it at the end of each episode? Because I kind of get to the end and I'm like, meh, I'm done. So if you have a question you want to ask, pop it down in the comments and let me know, and I'll answer it at the end of the next episode. How does that sound? Nothing too personal. But if you have any questions about knitting or about me or about something or a recommendation, anything like that, let me know. Drop it down in the comments and I will answer it at the end of the next episode. And apart from that, thank you so much for 30 episodes and 3 years of Jonathan's Days. What a treat it has been. The people I've met, the places I've been, the things I've done, the creativity I have unlocked, all because of this podcast and you, is something I treasure so much. So thank you so much for 3 years of fun and adventures. I look forward to a lot more coming down the line. I feel like things are only going to get bigger and better. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And drop me a question, comment, and let me know what you're working on while I've been chatting away at you. Are you working on summer knits? Are we still doing warm woolly knits? Are you already planning your Christmas gift knits? Who knows what you're working on? I want to know. Let me know. I hope you get some time to do some lovely, lovely making, and please look after yourselves. Be well. See you next time. Bye.